Hello and welcome to this special interview. My name is Alberto Pimentel, joined here by Ruben Chalico, aka Logan, and we're going to have a conversation on the capability maturity model integration, also known as the CMMI. But before we do that, let me introduce our two very special guests joining us live from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The one and only Kirk Botula, CEO of the CMMI Institute, and Ron Lear, CMMI Director of IP Development and Chief Architect. Kirk, Ron, for those who haven't had the pleasure to meet you, would you like to share with us a bit of your background and maybe tell us about what the CMMI Institute is?
Sure, we'd be happy to. First, I'm Kirk Botula. I'm the CEO of the CMMI Institute. The CMMI, or the Capability Maturity Model Integration, is the body of knowledge, a set of best practices that's used by organizations around the world to elevate organizational performance and to benchmark their organizations. It's used for building capability, for competitiveness, resilience, and sustainability of organizational performance. The CMMI got its start at Carnegie Mellon University in a collaboration between the U.S. Department of Defense, the university, and industry that were really seeking to solve the software problem. And what I mean by that is, how do we know what needs to be done? What does it take to consistently deliver reliable technology solutions in an environment where technology is incredibly dynamic, needs are incredibly dynamic, and yet it's essential to deliver mission-critical results on time, on budget, meeting within scope of the objectives of any program. And the CMMI grew out of that research program. In 2012, we became an independent research institute. In 2016, we became a part of the ISACA family, and ISACA is our parent now and is a global professional association of IT, audit, risk, and cybersecurity professionals around the world.
Okay. Appreciate it, Ron.
So, and to add to that, Ron Lear, Chief Architect, Director of IP Development here at the Institute. I have been working with the CMMI and its predecessor, the software CMM, for a little over 34 years. I have been working with a lot of organizations like Blue People and helping them to implement processes that CMMI basically points to as industry best practices, and that includes high maturity. I am a certified high maturity lead appraiser. I've had several hundred appraisals in my career with a lot of different companies around the world. What excites me the most, what gets me out of bed every morning with the CMMI, is when organizations like Blue People, like our other customers, say, because we use the CMMI, our business performs better. And what we've done with the model since the history that Kirk just gave you, we're very excited about version 2.0, where it can take us into the future, where it can take our customers into the future, because we feel like we've really transformed the model into something that will last for a very long time and really get the benefit that organizations are looking for from those factors that Kirk talked about.
Okay. All right. Thank you, guys. And once again, thank you for being here with us. We deeply appreciate it. Let's just dive in with the couple of questions. We know CMMI set of principles and practices were originally developed by members of Carnegie Mellon, as you just mentioned, and the Office of Secretary of Defense starting back in 1987. Now, we here at Blue People really committed ourselves to these principles, and throughout the implementation of them in our processes, we were able to dramatically reduce performance and schedule deviation, allowing us to scale up in an orderly manner as our business grew rapidly. Our very ambitious objectives, proved to be satisfied by this framework. Now the question is, how can different businesses with different needs and challenges harness CMMI principles in order to succeed?
Well, thanks for the question. I think that your experience is very similar to my own when I worked in industry. My own background was leading a commercial enterprise software company, and we used the CMMI. I would argue we used it as a competitive weapon, and by that I mean we used the CMMI as a platform to equip our talent to perform and execute in a way that our competitors could not keep pace with. It was very, very effective for us. We were able to accelerate our cycle times well past the industry norms. We were able to reduce customer-facing defects 75%, and we were able to really put our competitors on their heels because we were able to differentiate ourselves in terms of quality of execution and innovation. I think that there's the way I sometimes express it is an organization has to make a decision of what kind of culture it wants and whether it really wants to be competitive. And I think of the culture that CMMI brings to an organization is an athletic culture. It's the same kind of culture you see in a pro sports team, right? Where you have a team focused on a shared goal. You have a shared playbook. You're keeping score. You understand your performance, and everyone is committed as a professional to raising their game and contributing and raising their own personal confidence as an individual contributor. But also the way that you work together as a team is defined, reevaluated after every game. You review your plays, you see what worked, it didn't work, and you incorporate that into raising your competitiveness. And that's ultimately what the CMMI equips an organization to deliver. I think that some organizations approach things more from a compliance point of view, or more from kind of a box checking point of view. And you can't box check your way into athletic performance. You can't compliance your way into a winning team, right? So it's almost with the same set of tools. It really depends, I'd say, upon the objective and the commitment of the organization. And I think further, one of the things that's really important is that I'd say any organization that's dealing with process will sometimes say, "Oh no, we don't need process. The process is bureaucratic. That's red tape." And I know that you all have done a lot of application of lean thinking. And so what you would know is that people that feel like process is bureaucratic or red tape are just approaching their processes in the wrong way, right? And I would even argue, usually any piece of red tape was at one time a good idea, a good solution for a problem at that time. It's just that the organization did not continue to invest in getting that feedback in terms of fit to purpose of the process to the business goals. And if they looked at their own operation with the same intensity that when they complete their sprints and they get customer feedback, and then they incorporate that, you have to look at your operation in that same way. You have to be watching every delivery cycle, and taking feedback and tuning your operation on a continuous basis to drive performance. But I would say I think what Blue People has achieved is fantastic, and really illustrates the difference between what I would say is professional athletes and amateurs.
Appreciate it.
And I would add to that and echo a few things. One being, I think in the past that the CMMI was a framework that was a little bit scary to people, scary to both individuals, scary to organizations. So it's 3 models, it's 18,000 pages, and I have to have 3 PhDs to read it and so on and understand it and apply it. What we've done with 2.0 is, to Kirk's point, we've taken all that feedback. We've driven it into the new design of the model, and we've made it for new organizations who've never even heard of the CMMI. They have a place to start on ground zero. Simple, basic steps to actually help them as an organization perform better. So we've moved past, as Kirk mentioned, past this compliance mentality. So quality for quality's sake, process for process sake are really dead concepts now with 2.0.
Yeah.
It's every aspect of the model, every aspect of the product suite talks to business value, business performance. I think it was put best in one of our upgrade trainings when one of the students came up and said, I see what you've done here. You've changed this from a process improvement model to a performance improvement model. That's great. It kind of sells itself.
Yep.
I really like this sports analogy. I think we definitely have a winning team. You can see them behind us.
Yes.
And Ron, I can also see how it can be really, or not really, but maybe some intimidating. Maybe my next question talks about that. So since we started our CMMI implementation plan, we had the clear objective of reaching level 5 to offer our customers a highly mature process that guarantees quality and delivery time. Unfortunately, here in Mexico, there seems to be a fear or an aversion among IT companies to level 5 specifically. And often companies will describe it in one word, which is overhead. However, for us, it proved to be the opposite. Not only we were able to increase our customer satisfaction, but we did it with a 6-to-1 return of investment, and we did it in under a year. So my question is, how can Blue People's implementation experience motivate other companies to strive for level 5 and maybe change their perception to become a high maturity company?
So I'd like to reflect on that for a minute. I think it's a great question. And I think that, first of all, your experience of that 6-to-1 return is not uncommon. I mean, that at high maturity, anyone that's worked closely with high maturity will tell you it pays for itself, and it pays not only in the concrete ROI, but it pays in terms of your capability and the performance that comes out of it, right? And I think that there's a couple of perception issues with high maturity. One is, again, if organizations are taking a compliance approach, if they're just pursuing the model to get a stamp on the wall, then the question is, well, let's do as little as possible, right? Why would they're not really interested in, it's like they want to buy the sports team jersey and the hat, but they don't actually want to play, right? And so I'd say it doesn't surprise me for organizations that are simply checking the box, that they would seek to do as little as possible in order to accomplish their goal. For organizations that are really serious, and I would say that even the language of overhead speaks to that, right? So when you say like, oh, is a 6-to-1 return overhead, or is cutting my costs? We saw we have some data from an organization, maturity level 5 organization, using spiral development, SDLC, against a non-CMMI organization using Scrum, and I think the total cost of ownership, I think, was a 3-to-1 higher without the high maturity. The high maturity organization was a third of the other, and the quality was the total cost of quality was much higher, of course, and so then you ask the question: you perceive these results as overhead. That can only mean that there's no expectation of result. They're not really focused on results, right? So I understand. So I have a basketball hoop in my backyard, and sometimes I'll go out and I'll shoot hoops just to entertain myself. But if I suddenly walked out in a professional basketball game, I wouldn't enjoy myself either. I'd say, this is way too intense. These guys are exercising. They take this way too seriously. I didn't sign up for this. I just want to punch the clock and be done. Yeah. So I'd say I understand, and I think so. I think one is the objective. That's why people are not looking at this as a means of competitiveness. I think the second issue is just misunderstanding. It's it can be intimidating, right? I mean, the quantitative analysis can be intimidating, right? And I would say that it's and yet people rely on quantitative analysis every day. I mean, every day they're Facebook is telling them based on quantitative analysis, Facebook is putting things into their feed. This is stuff that our lives are improved by every day. It's not anything to be afraid of. It's just what it takes to be a professional.
Correct. And I would add to that you talk to organizations who are not at high maturity, and they may have learned from other techniques like the PMI Institute with PMBOK and those kinds of frameworks, who will sit there and say, okay, you can impact your quality, or you can impact your schedule, or you can impact your cost. Pick two, but you can't impact all three. High maturity turns that on its head. As you guys have found out, you've actually simultaneously improved all three by taking the right approach. You weren't chasing the level, you were chasing the business results.
Definitely.
I will just tell you, if you're always chasing the business results, it will always pan out correctly. That's the key. And you guys have proven that. So I would say we need to continue to trumpet stories like Blue People's success all around the globe, and that will help us get more adoption.
Appreciate it. Diving into the next question. Here in Mexico, fewer than 20 companies have been appraised as level 5, leaving a huge chunk of the market without high maturity practices and the respective benefits to their customers. For Blue People so far, a level 5 appraisal has translated into the ability to accurately predict delivery times, defect density, and performance deviation, increasing our productivity by at least 30% overall. Other companies, I assume, would have different results after implementing the same principles. The question is, what can customers expect from a company appraised as level 5 by the CMMI Institute?
So that's a great question, and I would just go back to my own personal experience when I was in running a commercial software company, and we had begun to compete on quality of execution. We were in a highly competitive market, and because of the results that we delivered, our customers just expected a market-leading solution on time with exactly what they needed, with excellent product market fit, excellent quality at a fair price, and they began to expect it. And we were in the financial services space, which is highly regulated and consequently very complex, and there's a lot of risk there. And I remember one time I was at a conference, I was going up an escalator and a customer was coming down. And there was a new regulation coming out that was causing a lot of concern in the industry. And I asked the customer, I said, hey, what are you going to do about this new regulation? And he said, I'm not worried about it. I know you guys are going to take care of it for me. Oh. Right? And so ultimately, any organization's brand is about trust, right? And if you have a good brand, it's because they trust that you'll deliver good results. If you have a bad brand, they trust that you'll be unreliable, inconsistent, or unpredictable, right? And so I'd say what the CMMI High Maturity delivers for an organization is a trusted brand. And what I mean by that is it equips you to deliver on the promises that you make to your customers. It equips you to be the organization that you want to be, reliable, innovative, and ahead of your customers' needs.
And I would echo that and pile on some more. So when we talked with you guys last week, you took us on the tour of the facility. You showed us how you've actually instrumented a lot of your processes, right? That you have the ability to see pretty much at any point in time where you are in those processes. Right. Level 5 boils down to two primary things. You understand variation at level 4, but you can actually predictably control it and systematically improve it at level 5. You guys are proving that over and over with what you're doing in your deliveries to your clients. That's what organizations can and should expect from a level 5 organization, because you have the data to build that brand trust that Kirk mentioned. You know whether or not you can deliver on the promise because you have that systematic, comprehensive insight into how your processes are actually performing.
Right. And I think one of the key things of that is it isn't that everything will always go perfectly, right?
Right.
But and I'd say, but when something goes wrong, unlike everyone else, you'll know exactly what went wrong, why it went wrong, and what to do about it. And so what I say is sure, level 5 organizations, if they're innovating, they're going to make mistakes once, right? Because they learn, right? They learn, and they're equipped to understand what's working and what's not working.
Correct.
Thank you for your answer. I think we feel great about having all this framework around us, because we definitely have seen the benefits for our customers. So our approach to an accelerated improvement was a lean mindset, focusing on enabling flow, removing waste, and setting up a layered continuous improvement cycle in order to maintain and increase momentum going forward. We really found a huge intersection with CMMI model in that regard. Maybe we don't have the full picture, but we haven't really perceived the lean approach as being too popular in software development, as opposed to the manufacturing industry in which it is the absolute standard. Why do you think this approach isn't as widely adopted yet, and can we expect a lean boom in the future?
So that question really speaks to my heart personally, because when I was in commercial software, we implemented lean methods very aggressively, and I think that I would say anyone who's currently using the CMMI is going to continue to get performance improvement by applying lean thinking. I mean, to me, it's how you can prioritize where your constraints are. It's how you can prioritize where you're going to get your gains from easily, and so it's so powerful. And I think you're right. I think that there's a tremendous opportunity within the software community to go further with lean, to go further with lean thinking. I think that sometimes, for example, sometimes you'll see little applications of some of the lean concepts, but they'll get trapped. Like in Scrum, for example, there's some lean thinking applied within Scrum, but frequently the challenges with scale in Scrum and the organizational issues in Scrum have to deal with having created a local optimum, which is a big lean issue, right? People create a small high-performance engine without optimizing the whole system and looking at the flow through the whole process. And so in some, I would say, I certainly hope we see a continuous challenging of the state of the practice at any given time, looking to optimize value and to eliminate constraints, which is how I think about the power of lean. But what would your response be to that?
Yeah, I would take a similar tack around, if you think about what lean is all about, and then you think about sort of the antithesis of that, what's the opposite of lean? The opposite of lean is rigidness. It's compliance-based mentality. It's checking the box. It's, well, that's not the way we've always done it kind of a mentality, right? Level 5 in the CMMI and high maturity is all about providing the foundation for not just performance, but innovation. If you look at some of those practices, which you guys have obviously seen, you will see that it requires you to look around and see how you can continually improve more rapidly, more flexibly, more, I'll say, adaptively to whatever the market is going to throw you. And lean will help you do that. Coupled with CMMI, it's a very powerful approach to being able to not only identify those improvements, but put them in place much more quickly than you might otherwise do, that your competitor might be able to do, which positions you better for the next go-around. And it's hard. Performance and process improvement enables innovation, and lean just helps facilitate that much faster, that much better, that much more effectively. Definitely. So I definitely think there will be a boom.
Definitely, I hope so. So on that note, I think it's time to wrap it up. This has been a wonderful chat, and on behalf of Blue People, Alberto and I would like to thank you for joining us today, especially on your tight schedules. And Kirk, Ron, would you like to add any closing words?
Well, I would just say thanks for the invitation to have this conversation together. We're thrilled to see what Blue People is accomplishing. I think that you guys are I think you are equipped to deliver on the expectations of your customers, to delight them, and I would say I think it's very courageous of you to be so transparent about what you're doing. I think that that your competitors. If I were your competitors, I would be concerned.
The big sweating bullets is what I was thinking of. I was like, wow, we're going to have to now play catch up with those guys.
Yeah.
I would add to that one of the key aspects of this dialogue, I often tell people, in the past when organizations get to high maturity, they often go dark. What do you mean by that, Ron? Well, they've got the secret sauce now. They actually have cracked the code on how to deliver software like a factory. So the inputs are predictable and the outputs are predictable. What I want to do, and what you guys are going to help us do by this video and by helping with all you're doing around CMMI, is to actually blow the lid off that and take the high maturity out of the dark and let people see this is a real tangible benefit to every organization. So thank you for that.
All right, that's part of our mission.
Yeah, we deeply appreciate it, and we're working hard on creating this ecosystem of high maturity companies that will in the future, near future, attract international business here to Monterrey, Mexico, or in general to Mexico. So we're also working hard on that, and we deeply appreciate this interview and your time.
We're all in on supporting that for sure.
All right, thank you. Next time we'll see you in person here in Monterrey, Mexico.
Okay, this was Kirk Botula and Ron Lear from the CMMI Institute. Thank you again, and see you guys next time.
Thank you.